Now, as I mentioned, Veeam offers a variety of ways in which you can get that data brought back to life. The easiest, or at least the simplest of these, is actually recovering an entire virtual machine. And in fact, this is one of the reasons why you go down this Veeam route as opposed to some of the traditional file and folder based approaches. The entire VM recovery option here is useful when you do need to recover that entire virtual machine from a specific point in time. And as we've said several times here, almost beating the dead horse, but the way in which the backups actually occur, focusing their attentions here on the virtual machine disk files, is what really facilitates the regular success here in recovering an entire virtual machine. But sometimes the process to recover that entire VM might just take longer than you actually expect. Maybe you need to get the virtual machine online much faster, or maybe you need to get the virtual machine online to get at some of its contents for one reason or the other. For that, Veeam provides a really cool extra solution here called Instant VM Recovery. We've seen examples here already of this vPower NFS tool that Veeam provides that allows you to set up an NFS share here that your vCenter environment can attach to for the purposes here of powering on virtual machines. The long and short here with Instant VM Recovery is that you are effectively running the virtual machine from your backup repository. You're not actually copying it over to the data store there inside your vCenter environment. What this means is you can power on that virtual machine right there from its files in the repository and start its services relatively quickly. That brings that virtual machine back online much faster than an entire VM recovery and allows you to use some of Veeam's other solutions like replication and what have you to slowly move the processing of that virtual machine back to where it should go. We'll spend some good time here talking about the instant VM recovery and why and how it actually is a pretty cool way to bring those VMs online, again, right there from your repositories. Now, in certain circumstances, you may also need to resurrect, for example, individual virtual disks from a virtual machine. This can be done through a separate process where you just bring back the individual VMDK or VHDX file that you want to bring back without an entire virtual machine and all the other trappings associated. You can also bring back the files associated with those virtual machines as well. Now, again, these are not the files inside the virtual machine, but the surrounding metadata files associated with that virtual machine. So your VMX file, your NVRAM file, all the other ones that surround that VM and allow it to operate. Whereas you might not necessarily find yourself doing these file restorations all that often, it is nice to know that if you need to get at, for example, an NVRAM file or a VMX file, you can do so from the same console here. And then lastly, we have the guest OS file restore, which is digging into those VMDK files or the VHDX files, and then gathering whatever files and folders that user requires. Really, any backup solution these days supports the guest OS file restore, but you'll see here that the process by which we get at those guest OS files, because of the indexing that was done as part of the initial backup, is pretty quick, and as Veeam's marketing titles it, can be sometimes done in just a single click. Now, I have mentioned that there is one more type of restoration that we can do here with Veeam, and that is the applications that sit on top of our virtual machines. Here are 6 additional Veeam Explorers, each of which has to do with a particular product, like Active Directory or SQL Server, that is used in the restoration of data for that particular application. Of these, the 5 that I've highlighted here are focused on kind of database-oriented applications like SQL Server and Exchange and SharePoint and so on. For these, we'll be taking a look at one of them, the Veeam Explorer for SQL Server. For the most part, these different Explorers kind of look the same. Once you actually launch the Explorer, you'll see exactly why. And so we'll focus our attentions here in the demonstration on just one of these, with the idea that you'll be looking at more than one of these in your production experience. Of these, there is one final one down here, the Veeam Explorer for storage snapshots. We have very obviously not been focusing on those unique storage platforms and the extra requirements there to support storage snapshots, mostly because I just don't have that kind of storage here that I can show you. But if you do have that kind of storage, and if you are using storage-based snapshots, this last Explorer here is another tool you'll use to break into those storage snapshots to get access to whatever data you require.